There's a tree in my backyard, an ancient maple tree, and her name is Mable. I named her Mable. She's been standing in that same piece of earth since before this Victorian house was built in the 1880s. Long before I ever stood at the parlor window, watching her branches sway in the breeze. Long before any of us were here. Mabel's branches reach up into the sky, and the wind moves through them constantly. Sometimes it's just a whisper. Sometimes it's a roar, and the branches bend, and the leaves shake loose, and whole limbs sway in directions they weren't growing toward just moments before. And Mabel, she lets that happen. She doesn't brace against the wind. She doesn't try to hold steady. She moves with what's moving through her, even when that movement is chaotic, and even when it strips away what was there before. But underneath all of that, beneath the soil, in the dark quiet where no one's watching, the roots, Mabel's roots, are doing something completely different. They're not moving with the wind because the wind doesn't touch them. They're growing deeper into the earth, slowly, steadily, following the water, following the minerals, following the ancient pull of gravity that's been holding things in place since before the wind existed. The roots don't know what's happening in the branches, and the branches don't need to know what's happening in the roots. They're both part of the same tree, but they're each having two entirely different experiences of the same moment. I've been thinking about that a lot lately because the sky is changing in ways that most of us are not prepared for. Not metaphorically and not spiritually, actually changing, planetary cycles unwinding that won't ever repeat in our lifetimes, thresholds being crossed that humanity hasn't touched in hundreds or thousands of years, invisible forces shifting the architecture of what we thought was solid. And you can feel it, even if you don't have language for it. That sense that the world is reorienting, that the old tethers holding things in place are loosening, that something ancient is unraveling and something new is trying to take shape, but it hasn't quite figured out what it is yet. And if you're someone who pays attention to the sky, to the planets, to the cycles, and to the patterns that repeat and the ones that don't, you know that this isn't imagined. This is real. The wind is blowing, and it's not a gentle breeze. But here's what I keep coming back to. While all of that is happening up there, in the invisible turning of the cosmos, the earth beneath you is still the earth. Gravity is still gravity, and your body, the body you're living in right now, still knows how to do the one thing it's been doing since the day you were born. It knows how to belong to the ground. You didn't have to learn that, and you didn't have to take a class in it. You didn't have to read a book about rootedness or watch a tutorial on embodiment or earn a certification in staying present during times of cosmic upheaval. Your body already knows. The same way that trees' roots know how to grow toward water without thinking about it. Your body knows how to find steadiness in the earth when everything else is swaying. It's been doing it your whole life. And every time that you've ever stood up, sat down, laid down to sleep, your body found the ground and let itself be held. Not because you told it to, because that's what bodies do. And I think that matters right now a lot, because when the sky is moving this fast, when the world feels like it's shifting underneath you in ways that you can't control or predict or even fully understand, it's easy to forget that you have roots. It's easy to think that you're all branches, all response, all reaction, all swaying in the wind with no anchor point. But that's not true. You have both. You're allowed to feel the chaos in the branches and the stillness in the roots at the same time. So let me ask you something. You don't have to answer out loud, or you can just think about this for a while. You don't even have to answer clearly. Just let the question sit in your body and see what it does. What do you actually belong to? Not what you think you should belong to. Not what you've been told matters what you belong to. Not what looks good on paper or makes sense to other people, but what does your body recognize as home? Because here's what's been happening for years, longer than most of us realized. There's been this quiet, persistent invitation moving through the collective. An invitation to wake up to what you actually value. And for some of us, that invitation came as a storm. A job ended, a relationship shifted, a belief system crumbled, a pandemic happened. Something that felt solid suddenly wasn't, and there was no going back to pretending it was. And for others, it came slowly, like erosion, a gradual wearing away of things that once felt true, until one day you looked around and realized the landscape of your life had completely changed. And you weren't sure when it even happened. And for some of us, it's still coming. We're standing in the threshold between what was and what's trying to become. And it's uncomfortable and disorienting, and we don't have a map for this. However it showed up for you, suddenly or slowly, loud or quiet, clear or confusing, it wasn't random. It was the same question underneath all of it. What do you actually belong to? And I think you know your body's been trying to answer that question for a long time. Not with words, not with explanations, but with sensations. With the way certain places make you feel at ease, and others make your chest tighten. with the way you can meet someone and feel like you've known them forever, or spend years with someone and never quite exhale, or with the way that you can walk into a room full of smiling people and immediately know somewhere in your body, deeper than thought, whether it is safe or not safe, because your body knows what it belongs to. It's always known. But most of your life, you've been taught to override that knowing, to make it make sense, to rationalize it, to explain it in language that sounds reasonable to people who don't live in your body. And maybe that worked for a while. Maybe it kept you safe or helped you fit in or allowed you to function in a world that doesn't really make space for people who listen to their roots instead of performing with their branches. But something's changing now. And the sky is shifting in ways that are asking all of us, well, demanding really, to stop pretending, to stop performing belonging where we don't actually belong, and to stop carrying values that were never ours to begin with, to stop explaining away what our bodies have been trying to tell us. And I know that's terrifying. Because if you stop pretending, if you actually listen to what your body knows, you might have to let go of things you thought were permanent. You might have to admit that what you've been building isn't what you actually want. And you might have to disappoint people. You might have to choose yourself in ways that feel selfish or reckless or too much. And you might have to stand in your truth even when no one else understands it. And please hear me, that's not a meditation practice. That's not a 5-minute breathing exercise. That's a full body reckoning with what it means to belong to yourself instead of to everyone else's expectations. But here's the thing. The wind is coming, whether you're ready for it or not. The sky is going to keep shifting. The cycles are going to complete and start again. The old ways are going to keep unraveling, and the new ways are going to keep emerging. And none of it is going to wait for you to feel comfortable. So your only real choice is this. Do you want to go through it with your roots in the earth? Or do you want to go through it disconnected from the one thing that can actually hold you steady? And grounding, real grounding, not the spiritual bypass kind, isn't about becoming calm. It's not about transcending the chaos. It's not about rising above it all and floating peacefully while the world burns. Grounding is letting your roots grow deeper while the branches shake. It's feeling the wind and the stillness at the same time. And it's knowing absolutely knowing that you can be terrified and absolutely held in the same breath. So, what if you didn't try to understand everything right now? What if you didn't try to have a plan or figure out the next step or make sure that you're doing it right? What if you just let your roots do what roots do, which is grow toward what sustains them, and trust that your body already knows the way? Not because you've mastered anything, not because you've healed all your wounds or cleared all your blocks or become enlightened, but because you're made of the same substance as everything else that grows here. You belong to this earth the way that tree Mable belongs. Not by earning it, not by being good enough, just by being alive. And I know that sounds simple, maybe too simple for how complicated everything feels right now. But what if the complication is the problem? What if all the noise and all the trying and the fixing and the preparing and the understanding is just wind moving through the branches? And what if underneath all of that is the quiet dark where your roots live? It's always been simple. Truly. You belong here. You always have. The sky will keep moving. The branches will keep swaying. The wind will strip away what needs to go and bring in what needs to come. And some of it will be beautiful. And some of it will be brutal. And most of it won't make sense until much later. And through all of that, your roots get to stay. Not because they're rigid, not because you're resisting, but because they're in conversation with something older and deeper and more reliable than the weather. They're in conversation with the earth. And the earth isn't going anywhere. So maybe that's the practice. Not trying to calm the branches, not pretending the wind isn't blowing, but remembering over and over again, as many times as it takes, that you have roots, that you belong to the ground beneath you, that your body knows how to stay even when everything else is moving. And that, my friend, is enough. It's always been enough. The sky is changing, and you're still here. Both of those things are true. And yes, both of those things get to be true.